We begin with this Fox News alert. Elon Musk and his Doge team members looked back at all they have accomplished over the first 100 days of President Trump's second term. It's been a big week. Time to look at Doge. They sat down with Fox for an interview that pulled back the curtain on what American tax dollars actually have been paying for. I'm Harris Faulkner. You are in the Faulkner Focus. Senior advisor to the president, Elon Musk, is scaling back his schedule now with the Department of Government Efficiency. However, he says Doge is crucial.
Is Doge just getting started? This is a long-term enterprise.
It's a long-term enterprise because if we take our eye off the ball, the waste and fraud will come roaring back.
They can Doge when Democrats get back in power.
We're trying to have it be such that the funding is removed, so the grants are gone. So there's a lot of work required to restart the waste and fraud.
The Doge team detailed a few eye-popping examples of waste and abuse that they have uncovered.
They found that money was being used to rent out Caesar's Palace for parties, rent out stadiums, et cetera.
They get $50 million a year, congressional money, to give grants. These are things like alpaca farming in Peru. We actually went into the agency and found that they had loaded guns inside of their headquarters, spending money on things like private jets. And they even had a $130,000 contract with a former member of the Taliban.
Those examples and many, many, many more add up to a big number. Doge claims it already has saved an estimated $160 billion. That's nearly $1,000 per every U.S. taxpayer. And the job is far from over. Senior national correspondent Rich Edson is at the White House. A lot of shock here, like just how much money was going out the door. Rich.
Yeah, and this is a time, Harris, where Elon Musk and the Department of Government Efficiency are touting and defending their work in the first 100 days of the Trump administration. The Department of Government Efficiency has cut a number of government employees, contracts, workers, even entire departments, and tens of billions of dollars of what staffers have called wasteful spending.
Unfortunately, like the 100th time you've heard it, it's hard not to get a little numb. Yeah. You know, but and by the 200th time, you're like, well, okay, it's just another day at the office.
We checked, is the Small Business Administration giving loans to dead people over the age of 120? The answer was yes, and it was around $330 million in total.
Doge is also highlighting eliminating funding for improving the marketability of peas in Guatemala. Musk says finding out where federal money ends up is a complicated task.
Exactly. Contractor, subcontractor, it's like peeling an onion. And then maybe, and sometimes it's zero. Just flat, you get to the bottom of the onion, there's nothing there.
Musk had originally targeted $2 trillion in savings. Now that he's established Doge, he says he's going to spend more time at Tesla, where sales and company stock prices are down. His special government employee status is scheduled to end May 30th. Musk's opponents accused Doge of overinflating savings and cutting vital government services, medical research and aid. Democrats say government spending is actually up this year and that Musk has failed to deliver significant savings from a bloated Pentagon budget.
We heard from Elon Musk that $20 to $30 billion just disappear in the Pentagon. We heard from Elon Musk that cost-plus contracting is a gravy train. We heard from Elon Musk that he was going to cut the defense budget. And what happened? We're adding $150 billion to the defense budget.
The latest Fox News poll says 39% of registered voters approve of Doge, 56% do not. Several federal judges have reversed some of these Doge cuts as these cases are continuing to work their way through the federal court system. Harris?
Rich, thank you. Mary Catherine Ham, Fox News contributor, is with me now to give me her first reaction to all of this. A lot of information. I mean, just the thought of Democrats one day coming and trying to flip the switch, as Jesse was talking about, is actually pretty frightening.
Yeah, and first of all, I love that Elon and the guys that he's working with do these sit-downs. I think they should do more of them because part of this is an education program for the American taxpayer about just how bad things are inside the federal government. Every single part of every single budget is bloated. And I would note for the congressman who was saying defense is not cut, defense spending is actually in the Constitution, so that's a helpful point in its favor. The rest of this stuff, going to Caesar's Palace on taxpayer dime or giving money to your friends' nonprofits that maybe don't even exist and are basically shell companies, those are disrespectful to American taxpayers. And there is an argument that I understand that is like, we're not really dealing with spending, we're not really dealing with entitlements. I want to deal with those things. However, this is like JV level, entry level cutting. It's so ridiculous. It's so silly. It's so dispensable that we should dispense with it. And I love that they are going after these things, because tell it to American taxpayers who have never seen $10,000, $100,000 in one place. Tell them that $160 billion is chump change, right? It's not chump change. It's their money, and it is the duty of the government to spend it wisely and not take it from them and give it to other people for nonsense.
I love what you're saying. Had there been contemporaneous accountability, maybe none of this would be happening, because the American people would not have put up with this had they known. Well, those on the left and Democratic lawmakers have been going after Doge's waste-cutting efforts since day one. Here's a look.
Unelected shadow government is conducting a hostile takeover of the federal government.
This smash and grab by Elon Musk is going to stop.
This is the most corrupt bargain we've ever seen in American history.
Fox's own Jason Chaffetz, former Utah congressman, with his recent op-ed, Democrats have made a fatal error opposing Doge. He argues they appear to be for the fraud and waste, and without a viable, reasonable, common sense alternative, their attacks fall on deaf ears and leave most to wonder, what do Democrats really stand for? Well, I think everybody's wondering that now. Mary Catherine?
Yeah, well, let me get this straight. It's a hostile takeover by the duly elected president who put a special government employee, of which Biden had plenty, in charge of the United States Digital Service, which they renamed Doge, but was an Obama-era creation to get, wait for it, smart technologists to come in from the private sector to add efficiency and knowledge to government, which is what they're doing. So they make up this idea that this is illegitimate in some way, but they've done that the entire time, the entire Trump era, right? It's not illegitimate. It's put in under this very specific system, and they are doing things that honor the taxpayers' dollars instead of disregarding them. And by the way, when you want to talk about like whether there is fraud going on, let's talk about just a tiny part of COVID spending. The biggest COVID fraud in the United States happened in Minnesota under Tim Walz's leadership. It was $250 million stolen from a children's food program. Okay, this stuff happens all the time, and it should be punished, and people should be held accountable for it.
Well, there are eyes on it now. It kind of makes you wonder, Mary Catherine, how Democrats are picking what they'll get behind. This is another example of that. There are now more horrific abuse accusations coming out about Kilmar Abrego Garcia. He is the illegal immigrant and alleged MS-13 gang member who President Trump deported to El Salvador in March. Despite this, some Democrats are still standing behind him. Democratic Senator Chris Van Hollen, who visited Garcia in prison. Remember that? That was like a big photo op. Well, now he says this.
In his first 100 days, Donald Trump is shredding the Constitution of the United States. He's violated these rights in many instances, including the illegal abduction and deportation of Kilmar Abrego Garcia.
Okay, let's just stack up the facts before we go on. Audio from 2020 was obtained by USA Today. Abrego Garcia's wife pleaded with a judge for protection from her own husband. A warning, the audio is difficult for some younger viewers especially to hear. Watch and listen.
He grabbed me from my hair and then he slapped me. I have pictures of the evidence, like all the bruises, because even on Wednesday, he hit me like around 3 in the morning. He would just wake up and hit me. He slapped me 3 times, and then last week I did call the police. My sister called the police because he hit me in front of my sister.
His wife responded to the audio with this statement. My husband was traumatized from the time he spent in ICE detention, and we were in the throes of COVID. Like many couples, we were caring for our children with barely enough to get by. All of those factors contributed to the actions which caused me to seek the protective order. We reached out to lawmakers that went to, or who went to El Salvador for their reaction to the audio. No responses on that yet. However, Van Hollen's team referred us back to the press conference from yesterday. Highway Patrol also released this 2022 body cam footage of an encounter with Abrego Garcia. Watch this.
How are you? Good, and you? All right. Everything good? You got a bunch of people here, don't you? It's 1 for seat. Yes. Go back to work. I ain't never seen a Suburban with 4 rows of seats.
You know what you got here, right?
No.
He's hauling these people for money. They don't have any luggage in there, right? And if you get them out, they're gonna have a tube of toothpaste and they're gonna have toothbrushes in their pockets. I guarantee it.
He's got $1,400 cash in his pocket in an envelope.
Troopers ultimately cited Abrego Garcia for driving with an expired license and let him go. The FBI later ordered that case to be dropped. Look, Mary Catherine, there is a long history now with just this one man, and it seems to get longer every day. Again, this is an issue again. Democrats jumped in early to defend him. Your thoughts?
Yes. Well, yes, when you look at this, the question becomes, for whom do Democrats wish to stand? And for whom do they put all their energy into standing and fighting, right? And the answer is Abrego Garcia became the poster child for them. And it probably was a strategic error. Here, I will say this. The administration says it messed up by sending him to El Salvador versus another country. They should rectify that mistake and deport him elsewhere because he is eminently deportable, as illustrated by the fact that it is not in dispute that he was here illegally for 11 years and that he has all these things on his record, including being adjudicated by an immigration judge at one point as MS-13. Like, American voters look at these guys and they go, there's Americans captive all over the world who you're not saying anything about, including Edan Alexander, who's still in Gaza. They say nothing about these folks. They send the message that they care more about illegal immigrants and the process due to them than they do to Americans in the system and the process due to them. By the way, the victims sitting in the Wisconsin court when the Milwaukee judge decided to escort their alleged attacker out of the courtroom, fighting for him, not for the Americans who had been victimized by him. This is the message that they continue to send. Not that they're standing up for process, but that they're standing up for these folks.
Look, Abrego Garcia went to El Salvador per our country. He was on a final deportation order. They sent him to his home country. Right. And I don't know if you'll remember this, but he fought going there because he said a rival gang would come after him. Yes. Yet Dems are still trying to chase the narrative that he was never even considered to be in a gang. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. They'll have to deport him here, then deport him away to a different country. But he doesn't belong in the United States either way.
I agree.
All right.
I agree.
Good to
And
see
that's been fairly obvious from the day one.
Thank you so very much. Good to have you in focus.
Thank you.
We're getting an exclusive look inside the first 100 days of Doge. Jesse Waters sat down with Elon Musk and his team of engineers to discuss everything they've uncovered so far. And it turns out they say millions of taxpayer dollars have gone to dead people.
Is the Small Business Administration giving loans to dead people, people over the age of 120? The answer was yes, and it was around $330 million in total. So
people with a birthday that could not possibly be real.
Yeah.
Meaning they're over 100, they're 115 years old or older. The oldest living American is 114. So it's safe to say if anybody is in the system as 115 years or older, that is fake.
So just by sharing a database and looking at Social Security numbers that showed that at the time of the loan, they had listed as over 115 years old, or actually under 11. We didn't even check for under 18.
Babies and dead
under 11 years old. That's pretty clear.
Babies
right?
and dead people who are getting loans.
And it gets worse. They say government officials were partying on your dime.
There was a $4 billion COVID fund in the Department of Education, and there was no receipts required, so people could just draw down on it. And when people looked into it, this wasn't us, this was before us, they found that money was being used to rent out Caesar's Palace for parties, rent out stadiums, et cetera. And so the one change that DOGE made with the Department of Education is we had the simple requirement that if you draw down money, you must first upload a receipt. That was the only change that was made. You must upload your receipt. And upon doing so,
yes,
nobody drew down any money anymore.
Yes, but we didn't say that we'd check the receipt. You could send a fake receipt. You could send a picture of your dog. Anything.
Anything.
Anything. But as soon as we asked for anything at all, suddenly the requests were like, oh, we don't need it anymore. Huh, that's interesting.
They were renting Caesar's Palace.
Yes. They're like basically partying on the taxpayer money.
Stadiums.
Yes.
Leasing stadiums.
Leasing stadiums.
For what?
For parties, basically.
For parties.
Yes.
That's a big party.
Tommy, I love Jesse's reaction. Renting stadiums for parties. This blows my mind. This isn't transgender rats on treadmills. This is Caesar's Palace.
What I love is that now that there's a little tiny bit of accountability, all of a sudden nobody wants to upload any receipt. So the Democrat narrative on this, again, has been wrong. But it's been, oh, well, it wasn't $2 trillion, so who cares? Well, when you look at the egregious spending, if we're able to cut out the egregious stuff and it adds up to whatever it ended up being, 150 million, billion, that's a great savings. And most people are happy to see it, right? So the fact that Democrats poo-poo this, it reminds me of Nancy Pelosi talking about the tax cuts as just crumbs. It means something to the American people that we're not renting out stadiums for certain government employees to have a fun time.
You know, Sandra, I want to play this moment. This is about deleting records. And you think, you know, in government, you have to keep your records. Certainly shouldn't be deleting accounting information. But Elon Musk and the team found this. Listen.
Just a few hours after we got into their headquarters, we found that their chief accountant had actually deleted over 1 terabyte of accounting records from several years. So you'd have to ask the question, well, why would somebody do that? The Doge team, fortunately, was able to recover that data with the help of a few great employees at the Institute of Peace. And I think the most troubling thing was they received $55 million a year from Congress, and any money that went unspent, instead of returning that to Congress, they would sweep it into a private bank account, which had no congressional oversight. And that's what they would use to fund things like events at their headquarters and the private jets.
You almost feel like you're watching a very entertaining sitcom, but this is real life. And I think Jesse Waters was enjoying himself very much.
Yes.
I mean, what an incredible revelation and what an eye-opening look at this. And to have a seat at the table and to have a camera in the room just continues to speak to the transparency that this administration is providing. It wasn't just Caesar's Palace and the big party. It was private jets. Congressionally approved funds were used for a $130,000 contract with a former member of the Taliban they dug up. That's all been recommended to the Justice Department. So Elon Musk talked about on his sort of long goodbye here that this is a long-term enterprise, and they've got to stay at this because things can easily fall back into old ways. But, you know, we've talked a lot about the resistance to this. A lot of these agencies are so happy with the change. I mean, it was archaic. I think Elon Musk said it's prehistoric, like dinosaurs would think this is kind of old. Talking about the archaic filing systems at the federal employees' retirement system. So there is a lot of welcome change that is happening as well, by the way.
You know, Jesse had a lot of fun there, too.
Yeah.
He found a young man who goes by the name of Big Balls.
Oh, boy.
This cracks me up, you guys.
Who's Big Balls?
It's me. That should be obvious.
Why do they call you Big Balls?
I just said it as my LinkedIn username.
Okay.
Well, people on LinkedIn take themselves like super seriously, and they're pretty adverse to risk. And I was like, well, I want to be neither of those things. So I said it, and honestly, I didn't even think anyone would notice.
The only man on the couch.
I didn't have analyzing big balls on my bingo card today, but here we are.
Well, here we are.
I'll be real quick. More of this from the Doge team, not just Elon Musk, but the whole team, because when he leaves, you see that they are in very capable hands. 3/4 of Americans agree with the Doge mission because who's for waste, fraud, and corruption? Oh, right, Democrats and some allies in the media. So again, this is an issue hammered home. When Elon's gone, the mission will continue.
Emily with the cleanup at bat.
Remember how the left painted these engineers as inexperienced children, inexperienced engineers, right? We saw there without notes as they articulated the phenomenal impact that they've had from memory, and also things like, you know, the person from the Institute of Peace that helped stop that 1 terabyte of flooding. I mean, the reality is that tiny changes and a stop to the culture of blatant thievery has made an indelible impact. But the work is not yet over. It requires the continuing of the baton. And by the way, I assure you guys, when I was a federal attorney, I did not go to any stadium party. I mean, I was shopping at Target. I still do, and staying at Best Westerns.
And J. Crew.
And no parties at Caesars for Emily Campagna.
I wish.
All right.
We want to bring in Russell Vogt, director of the Office of Management and Budget, who is reportedly, quote, widely perceived to be preparing to pick up where Musk leaves off. Russ Vogt, welcome. Thank you very much. It's good to have you here. So let me just ask you that for starters, because I think there is a feeling that with Elon Musk leaving, this position, at least on a daily basis, the ball is going to get dropped. And then the signal to all these agencies is sort of, hey, back to business as usual.
Well, I haven't come to the realization or the acceptance that Elon is leaving. It's been a great partnership, and we hope it continues as long as he's able to do it amongst his other responsibilities. And it's been a historic and I think, revolutionary look at what is occurring at these agencies. And I love the interview last night. And we're trying to make these cuts permanent. We're trying to send them up to Congress, propose the lowest non-defense level since 2017. If you adjust it for inflation, it's the lowest since 2000, because we want to bank these $163 billion in cuts to the bureaucracy that has been woke and weaponized and wasteful. And the American people know it's not affordable. What they just are maddened by the fact that it's been used to divide them and been weaponized against them. And so that's what we're trying to fix. At the same time, we're going to fund all the president's priorities and get him to $1 trillion national defense figure. And so we're going to have a good reception on Congress, and we've already begun that outreach.
Well, you know, I think the American people want to know that someone is going to pick this ball up and is going to hang on to it like a dog with a stake in their teeth that they're not going to let go of. And Bloomberg wrote this: vote is widely perceived as picking up wherever Musk leaves off. He has the institutional knowledge and perhaps the patience to make Doge cuts stick and is waiting in the wings. Is that accurate? Are you going to be that person?
Nobody picks up for Elon Musk. I'm happy doing the job that I've been doing. And the relationship has been one of, we want to go as fast as we can to work with Doge as they're finding savings wherever they possibly can. And then OMB comes along and figures out how to make them permanent. That's going to continue, and we will work with whoever is at Doge to be able to make sure that this isn't just something that falls by the wayside. I promise you the president is deeply committed to the work of government efficiency.
You know, it is so outrageous when you listen to these examples. And if 2/3 of them, you know, are right on the money, it is, I think, appalling to Americans who work hard and they don't want their money going down the drain for these people to sort of fly, you know, private planes. What is he talking about when he says they rented out stadiums and Caesar's Palace? What agency was that? Who did that?
Well, I have to look on that one, but we've seen rampant waste everywhere. And it's both in our foreign policy, it's, you know, the housing department making the city of Los Angeles do an equity audit. It's a preschool program for curricula. It's literally designed for nothing other than to put CRT curricula in preschools for 4-year-olds. We see that everywhere. And it's not just, is it wasteful, is it maddening, it's divisive, and we're putting an end to it. Promises made, promises kept.
Yeah, what about criminal? Is it criminal?
And I think you would hear that fraudulent, right? I mean, it is insane, and that's the kind of thing the American people would rather be burned in the parking lot than to go to the
So what happens? I mean, is someone going to go to jail? Because it really, you know, I think that the outrage is palpable on this. The waste is disgusting. The idea that you can, you know, charge things and move money into another bank from these funds that are taxpayer. Is it your sense that DOJ is going to actually follow through on some of these and prosecute in some of these cases?
I do. The president's been very clear in working with our wonderful Attorney General Pam Bondi to make sure that wherever we could find fraud, that those are prosecuted, and she's been very clear on that.
So we're looking on the screen, improper payments for fiscal year 2024. It adds up to about $160 billion right there. I do want to ask you about the president's budget, which just dropped, and there's a bit of pushback to it. It has cuts of 22.6%, $163 billion, another familiar number found here. But some are not happy with what they're seeing in this proposal, which is no surprise. I guess usually when the president drops their budget, you're going to get a lot of pushback. But some of this is coming from Mitch McConnell and Roger Wicker in the Senate. Here's a quote. "It's peculiar how much time the president's advisors spend talking about restoring peace through strength, given how apparently unwilling they are to invest accordingly in the national defense." What do you say to that, Mr. Vogt?
Yeah, it's an inaccurate charge. We provide $1 trillion in national defense spending, 13% increase. We do it in two components. We use discretionary spending, and then we put in a historic paradigm all of our increases on defense and homeland security. we use it in reconciliation so that we only need to use Republican votes. We don't want Democrats to have the filibuster as a veto to then hijack the appropriations process and say no to the Homeland Security spending, and then say that every dollar of defense has to lead to another dollar in non-defense spending. So that has been Washington, D.C. broken. We are changing that. And right now, even before any discretionary appropriations bill is done, you're going to see $150 billion passed in the House and the Senate. That is real money. It's going to real capabilities, and it will lead to all of the increases to get us to $1 trillion bill. And so I love Chairman Wicker. We're going to be working with this team to continue to explain what we believe is a historic strategy to secure the actual increases, as opposed to letting the initiative be to Democrats in Congress.
I got to ask you one more question before I let you go, and it's this. A lot of the agencies that we're hearing about around that table last night are, smaller agencies that most people have never heard of. When you look at the waste in Medicare, Social Security, Medicaid, again, it's like $150 billion in these improper payments. So when are you going to go after waste, fraud, and abuse in Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security?
Well, look, I think what DOGE is doing is, in fact, real time changing processes to make sure that the improper payments goes away. We don't have to wait on Congress to do that. We also have a reconciliation bill in which we're going to make sure that we can't have illegal immigrants on the Medicaid program, and we don't have people on that where states need new tools for eligibility requirements. And so there is a lot of work that can be done on the mandatory side of the House. This is just for the discretionary. We wanted to get it up to Congress to start the appropriations process and to inform those that are working on the reconciliation bill. Much more detail is to come when it comes to the other programs that make up the entirety of our federal spending.
Well, thank you. We appreciate what you're doing, and we thank you for your time today, Russell Vogt, OMB. It does seem that there is a DOJ aspect of this as well, if people are stealing from the American people when they carry out these government jobs. So hopefully we'll talk to Pam Bondi next about that. Thank you very much. Good to see you, sir.
Thank you.
I'm just curious, Jesse, what your overall impression was of this group, because when Brett spoke to some of the members, they were like a lot of CEOs, a lot of people with a lot of experience. This was like that young crowd that we heard a lot about, at least some of them were.
Someone said, what was it like being the dumbest person in the room? And I said, I'm used to it. So the one kid had dropped out of Harvard to go do this. Another kid was 21 years old. I think Big Balls is maybe 23. And the minute they open their mouth, they're so articulate and they're so serious and they're so competent. One of the guys at the end of the interview said, people sometimes, these bureaucrats, that come up to us and thank us. Because you get the story in the press where these guys are mercenaries and they're coming in and they're just axing people and it's a big standoff. No, these people are collaborating with the DOGE team to make the government better. And that was something I don't think anybody had really known before because of the way the media describes it. One story kind of got me. There's this Institute of Peace, and they say they name things because who would ever want to kill the Institute of Peace? They walk in the door, and there's a armory. There's fully loaded weapons being stored in the Institute of Peace. They're sending hundreds of thousands of dollars to the Taliban, and they start asking questions. And then these guys start destroying evidence. They just start erasing files, destroying pieces of paper. It's eye-opening. It really is.
I mean, this is what I can't get over, Harold. What he's describing is crime. I mean, these are crimes. This is taking money and it disappears. That's called stealing. Layers of corruption, layers of stealing that he described. I mean, what do you think should happen to the people that allowed this to happen? Should people go to jail?
It'd probably be a lot of Democrats and Republicans going to jail. This is something that's gone on for way too long. Look, I am a huge supporter of this effort. This is not the first time we've had efforts like this, but this is an effort that has gotten a lot more attention, and you have the richest man in the world who has pioneered and has come up with some of the great innovations and technologies that the country benefits from over the last 10 years. Two, I hope even with his absence, I hope they continue down the road of finding, you have a $4 billion thing, the one that they have at the Department of Education, and there are no receipts for what was drawn down on. All of it may have been legitimate, but you can't do that in the real world. I do ask everyone to take some caution in terms of our glee for just one thing. As I watched you last night, and you were great, by the way, listening to all of them, letting everybody sort of share their story and share the reasons why they're doing this. I'm reminded that government, having worked there, government is not a startup. Government's not a business. We want it to operate as much as it possibly can as a business. I view government as a great nonprofit trying to be a business, and you always have to make sure that they're not spending more, that they're not wasting it, and people are not stealing it. I look at my church, and we probably do things a little inefficiently in time. We maybe have too many food drives. We may have too much time where we have hotlines for people to call, and we may have too many times where we have domestic violence counseling for people. I bet if you have one of these really, really smart guys, and I was a little disturbed there were only men in the room, but if you have one of these smart guys come and say, hey, maybe you guys should only have one food delivery during the day, we'd probably save money. Or maybe you should only have one time where people can come and ask about problems they're having at home. There's some entities in some parts of our society that aren't going to operate like an innovation center in Silicon Valley, or for that matter, Austin, Texas, or wherever. But this overall exercise is a very good exercise, because if those at the Department of Education, or for that matter, any of these agencies, have to answer these tough questions about where the money's being spent, that's a good thing for all of us.
$4 billion, Judge, for the Department of Education, no receipts. That money was supposed to go to catching up kids during COVID. I remember President Biden in that classroom, and the little girl was like, I just, fall asleep, or I go get something to eat. The money it disappeared, and there's no return on it. It's not an extra food drive. It's gone.
Yeah, well, it's gone because people stole. Let's not kid each other. They may claim, for example, as with USAID, that it went for an opera in Ecuador. But the issue is, was there ever an opera in Ecuador?
That's what he's saying. There was no sex change in Guatemala.
So the money goes to this person, and it subcontracts to that person, maybe an LLC here, and it never gets to the alleged goal. And then the question is, was there a kickback? Did everybody spend the money? And let me tell you, I worked in government for 32 years. Nobody does anything without a receipt, Harold. You don't take money and just spend it willy-nilly. And by the way, people who go to work for government, people who work in civil service, are unaccustomed to first-class events. When you work for government, you're basically, in the back of the bus, in the back of the plane. These people are renting out Caesar's Palace, spending a fortune on first-class conferences where they don't have conferences. And while American taxpayers are cutting their budgets to make sure they can pay taxes, these people are spending the money with absolutely no consequences. Now, the Democrats have been beside themselves with DOGE. How dare you? How could you? This is outrageous, and all this other nonsense. I'm not sure that now that Congress is taking over, that we can even trust Congress, because Congress has had the ability to oversee this for the last 30, 40, 50 years, and they've done nothing because one hand washes the other. And now what we've got to try to figure out is whether or not these criminal referrals, and there have been criminal referrals to the Department of Justice, will be prosecuted. And I think there will be a great many of them.
I think that's what you need, Greg. I mean, somebody has to go to jail for stealing money from the American taxpayer, or else it's just going to go on and on and on and on.
There's nothing worse than too many food drives. But you know what? Let's go back to the A block. This is the hill you die on. The debt's $36 trillion. It's predicted to default in, a decade at this rate of spending. So it could completely destroy the economy, which will destroy the country. This is where you should put your energy. Adults put their energy in this. The Dems, they fly to El Salvador on your dime to defend a thug. That's the hill they choose versus this hill. And they choose these hills despite knowing what we all know. The numbers are there. We're screwed unless DOGE does its job. And yet, what do? They falsely claim that DOGE is cutting Social Security and Medicaid. Why would you say that? Why would you say that when you know that if DOGE doesn't do this, we're all screwed? Democrat, Republican, liberal, conservative, we're all screwed. The lower third that was up there said this is a long-term thing. This is why polling is garbage. With Trump, the reason why we stick with Trump is because we're in it for the long term, not the short. Saving the economy, not saving one illegal in El Salvador for the short-term dopamine hit. These polling numbers at the moment, it's like asking a guy who's how he feels while he's moving a sofa, and not afterward when he's sitting on the sofa having a beer and watching The Five. Pollsters and Democrats don't get it. We accept reality. We get the tough stuff over first. DOGE, tariffs, deportation. Yeah, it hurts and it sucks, but the future's going to be great. Pollsters and Democrats do not think about the future. It's now that it's all about now, me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the commitment that the president has made, and I think he tries to get a lot of the pain up front before the midterm cycle, so that he will have some results to look at that point, and that's when the American people should judge. But
how long should we be ready for the pain? I just want to.
Well, it's only been 4 weeks.
Look at the stock market, Harold.
Yeah, it's getting better, Harold.
Yeah. Remember,
Harold.
the master of the half opinion. Oh, look, it's going down. Now it's back up.
We'll see you in 6 months. See how you feel.
All right. Yeah, that's the judge.
You want to bet?
Here is senior national correspondent Rich Edson.
Fraud in flagrante delicto, okay? We're talking at scale.
Elon Musk and the Department of Government Efficiency are showing and defending their work across the first 100 days of the second Trump administration. At the Department of Education,
they found that money was being used to rent out Caesar's Palace for parties, rent out stadiums, etc.
The Inter-American Foundation.
They get $50 million a year, congressional money, to give grants. These are things like, alpaca farming in Peru.
And more.
Improving the marketability of peas in Guatemala.
Really?
Fruit jam.
All part of DOGE claims the department has saved $160 billion. Musk says he's going to spend more time at Tesla, where sales and the company's stock price are down since Inauguration Day. His special government employee status is scheduled to end May 30th. Musk says DOGE needs to be a long-term enterprise.
There's a lot of work required to restart the waste and fraud.
Democrats accuse DOGE of inflating its savings, sloppy work, and cutting vital government services, medical research, and aid. They say spending is up this year and that Musk has failed to deliver at the Pentagon.
We heard from Elon Musk that he was going to cut the defense budget. And what happened? We're adding $150 billion to the defense budget.
There are more cuts coming, these directly from the White House. President Trump signed an executive order instructing the Corporation for Public Broadcasting to cease federal funding for NPR and PBS, saying neither entity presents a fair, accurate, or unbiased portrayal of current events to tax-paying citizens. PBS says it's exploring all its options. NPR says it, quote, will challenge this executive order using all means available. The president is also escalating his fight with Harvard University. He says his administration will revoke Harvard's tax-exempt status. Harvard called the move unprecedented, unlawful, and says it will have grave consequences for higher education in America. Aisha?
Rich, thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.